All right, so today I want to talk about the current situation in the NBA regarding the vaccines, and this is going to be somewhat of a nice little break from my typical political videos that I talk about here because I actually am an NBA fan, completely separate to my interest in politics. If you can see here, I'm wearing my Atlanta Hawks basketball shirt. I've been a fan of the Atlanta Hawks for my entire life, and so I may even have a little bit of bias here in covering this story because I actually do have a vested interest in players like Kyrie Irving, who happen to be in the same conference as the Atlanta Hawks, not playing for the entire season, but I'm going to try my best to set aside those biases as we talk about this. So basically, this is the situation that we had a couple days ago with one of the star point guards of the NBA, Kyrie Irving, okay? And so he is playing on a team, the Brooklyn Nets up in New York, and New York has some pretty stringent and strict vaccine requirements for large public gatherings, and so we've run into a bit of a conflict here where a bunch of these NBA players who happen to be anti-vax or vaccine hesitant and aren't fully convinced on the merits of them are refusing to get vaccinated, and the consequence of that is they are coming into conflict with a lot of these state laws that have been in place, like in New York, where they do have pretty stringent requirements for vaccine status. And so if you are a player who is playing on a team in the state of New York, half of your season is going to end up being played in this state. And so, bare minimum, if you're not vaccinated, you may have to miss half of the goddamn season. So it's a completely ridiculous situation, but nonetheless, we're here. So let's go ahead and read some of the details. This was as of yesterday, and we do have a new update here in terms of Kyrie Irving, but I want to read to you some of the details here from yesterday because it's just kind of interesting to see how this entire situation has been playing out. So with time running out for Kyrie Irving to obtain full eligibility for the regular season by getting vaccinated against the coronavirus, the Brooklyn Nets acknowledged that their all-star guard will be unavailable for some games because of New York City's vaccine mandate. Nets coach Steve Nash said Sunday that Irving's status, which has become the biggest question of the upcoming NBA season, remains unresolved. And quote, "I think that we recognize he's not playing some home games," said Nash, whose Nets are a leading title favorite. Okay, they also have Kevin Durant, James Harden, a number of other great players on that team. So they really are heading into the season. Them and the Lakers would be the two favorites to end up in the championship. And so this is a pretty big fucking deal if this star point guard that you have that is supposed to be leading the team, right, is not able to show up for a large portion of your season. That's going to be a pretty big hit for a title contender. But they continue saying, "We're going to have to for sure play without him this year, so it just depends on when, where, and how much." And we now do have an answer on exactly how much, but continuing with just some of the details here, they say, "While the NBA doesn't have a vaccine mandate for players, certain cities, including New York and San Francisco, have enacted rules that require vaccination for members of home teams in those markets. And Irving, if he remains unvaccinated, would be ineligible for Brooklyn's 41 home games, and that's out of 82 total games at Barclays Center, and its 2 road games against the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden." So basically, for the entire season, for half of the season in these home games, he would not be able to play. So again, that's a pretty massive hit that you can't really get around if you're an NBA team. You can't really be functioning where one of your top 3 players on your team, one of the leaders of your team, is just not able to play for half the games. That would just be completely unsustainable. And so just to give you more perspective on some of the rules here, so per NBA rules, players must be 2 weeks removed from their final shot to be considered vaccinated, which is pretty typical. But Brooklyn's regular season home opener is slated for October 24th against the Charlotte Hornets. Today is October 12th, so we're 12 days out there, so less than that 2-week window. So Kyrie Irving will definitely at least be missing some games, but they continue saying that Irving would be able to play in Brooklyn's road games without receiving the vaccine as long as he abides by the NBA's strict health protocols, which would require him to undergo regular testing, avoid eating with his teammates, and steer clear of public socializing at bars and clubs, among other restrictions. So let me just tell you, this entire situation is completely ridiculous. Okay, they would never be able to, no NBA players would ever be able to abide by these strict rules. We've seen this over the entire course of COVID. Okay, they're going to go out and party, they're going to go out into public settings and expose themselves to COVID. That is an inevitability. So this situation is pretty unrealistic in my perspective, and that's exactly how we ended up with this situation. So Brooklyn Nets just put out, literally minutes ago, just put out a full statement on Kyrie Irving's situation. So the following statement has been released by General Manager Sean Marks saying, quote, "Given the evolving nature of the situation and after thorough deliberation, we have decided Kyrie Irving will not play or practice with the team until he is eligible to be a full participant," meaning if you're going to have to miss half the season, you're not going to play at all because it's a little bit too hard for an NBA team to be swapping back and forth between having this all-star player who's going to be putting up, 25 points and 8 assists per game, and this guy is not going to be able to play for half the games. It's just going to throw you completely out of whack. It's going to destroy your game plan. So it makes sense that they would not want him to be on the team at all unless he was going to actually give in to the vaccine requirements. But they continue saying that Kyrie has made a personal choice and we respect his individual right to choose. Currently, the choice restricts his ability to be a full-time member of the team, and we will not permit any member of our team to participate with part-time availability. It is imperative that we continue to build chemistry as a team and remain true to our long-established values of togetherness and sacrifice. Our championship goals for the season have not changed, and to achieve these goals, each member of our organization must pull in the same direction. We are excited for the start of the season and look forward to a successful campaign that will make the borough of Brooklyn proud. So that's the situation that we have right now. Kyrie Irving officially, as of right now, unless he gets vaccinated, basically, is not going to be playing in this 2021-2022 NBA season, which is a pretty massive thing. Again, this is a guy who is one of the best players in the NBA. He is maybe the best point guard in the NBA, maybe behind a couple other guys, Dame and Steph and some others. But this is a pretty big situation we have right here. This is one of these star players, an all-star who is, famous throughout the world, is choosing not to get vaccinated. And that's obviously setting a horrible example, not just for the rest of his teammates, but for the rest of the country and the rest of the fans that support Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets. I would be pissed if I was a fan of the Brooklyn Nets that one of my star players who you're paying, nearly $30 million a year or whatever his contract is, I think it's $34 million a year, and he's not willing to get a simple shot in the arm to be able to play for the entire season. So I don't know if this is going to be what finally puts him over the edge to get the vaccine, but listen, I am a full-throated supporter of vaccines, okay? They do work, they are effective, the data has been clear on that for a very, very long time, and listen, some states, you could argue, have very strict vaccination requirements, and there is some nuanced discussion to be had there, but, if you're going to be participating in large public gatherings, yeah, you should probably be vaccinated, okay? I get why people are hesitant, especially within black communities, right? There is a historical record of, black communities being targeted by the U.S. government and literally experimented on, so it's understandable to have some degree of hesitancy when approaching the vaccine. But this entire idea that, people can set out and go and do their own research online and go and look at all these, Facebook memes or wherever the fuck they're getting their information and come to a conclusion that is more accurate and more scientifically based than what their doctor would tell them, or what, an international consortium of the most qualified people on earth and the most qualified scientists on earth have already concluded that the vaccines are safe. I mean, this idea that people can go off and do their own research is just completely insane to me, okay? You're not going to be able to do research that is better than all of these experts in the field all around the world, even if you don't trust the U.S. government. This is a global consortium, again, of the experts and most qualified people in their fields that have come to this conclusion. So listen, I recommend everybody get vaccinated 100%. It's going to be interesting how this plays out. And again, we've had other NBA players who have tried to pull this exact same thing. Even LeBron James, the face of the NBA right now, even though he's getting old and he's on his way out, he's still the face of the NBA. And even he was doing a sort of middle ground statement where he was saying that, it's everybody's personal choice, and, you can do your own research and come to your own conclusions, and wouldn't even come out strongly in favor of vaccines. So there's a serious problem right now in the NBA. That's pretty clear. But yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. If one of the best players in the NBA, one of the leaders on a so-called super team, is potentially going to be missing the entire season simply because he's choosing not to get vaccinated.